Okay, so you're a normal person, you want to purchase a house right now, okay? One of the big factors here is that in 2011, we bought our first house. We now own 5 different properties, including a commercial property that are valued in the multi-millions, and myself and my wife now are valued over $5 million. So one of the big factors here is that when we're thinking about buying our first property, we have to recognize that it's perfectly fine to purchase a house that is not super fantastic. It might be run down. It might be beat up. It might be ugly. But this doesn't define who you are as a human being, and this doesn't define your existence or your overall value when you're 60, 70 years old. So one of the big factors right now that we're thinking through is that mortgage rates are right now around 6.86%. This is June 1st of 2025. Okay, so that's relatively high to where it has been. Now, back in the 80s, people were buying with mortgage interest rates around 10 to 14% at times. So we have to keep that into perspective. The next big factor, okay, in 2022, we could see that houses were selling in about 18 to 20 days. Now in 2025, we're seeing that houses are sitting on the market for about 40 days, depending upon where you're at. The big factor though, okay, the average cost of a home in the United States is around $430,000 as of June of 25. Okay, $430,000. The average income combined is around $70,000 to $80,000. Okay, so if you're somebody that, let's say you and your spouse total, you bring home $80,000 a year, on average in a month, your gross income is going to be around like $6,500, $6,700. Okay, so now we're looking at this and we're going and doing that quick math. We're starting to recognize, okay, well, based off of that and what I would be able to afford if I made $80,000, I probably should stick around $250,000 to $275,000 max for a home because I want to avoid PMI. Okay, so now what does that mean? If we can work backwards through solving this whole entire problem, there's a couple big issues. Okay, one, focus on things that you can control. Okay, what are your monthly expenses? How much money are you making? It always comes back to one thing, and I'm going to beat this dead horse on this channel relentlessly. You have to make more money than you spend. Okay, so that's the first big factor. Start to figure out what you're spending your money on. Start to figure out how you can make more money. Make yourself more valuable. Do side hustles. Do things for, if you work for an employer, try to do everything possible to make yourself more valuable to that employer. You have to if you want to achieve these goals. Now, with that being said, if we're looking at one big factor is that if you're watching videos on if you should buy a house in 2025, we start to look from the macro perspective. And right now, the global economic situation is quite interesting because Japan just is in a very peculiar situation where they own, I think it's $1.2 trillion of the US debt. And the issue is the yen is getting stronger, which sounds good, but it's not, because they own so much, okay? And they're trying to sell some of that debt and no one wants to buy it really. No entities are really interested in buying it because the dollar is weak. The economy, or not necessarily the economy, but the actual value of the dollar and other aspects, they put it to market, they put it to auction, and not a lot of entities have wanted to purchase it. And this could have a negative impact on the 10-year yield, okay? And that is closely tied to mortgage interest rates. That's how all this can be interconnected. And the big factor there then is that if we're thinking through that lens, we sort of get overwhelmed. And we're watching people talk about this and we get overwhelmed and we're like, oh man, Japan's collapsing and they have an aging population and they control a lot of debt. What should we do? We should just buy Bitcoin, right? Like everybody's, just buy a hard asset. It's digital gold, buy Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying everybody is at different stages and most people should not be buying Bitcoin. You want to live in a house. Let's say you're 40 or younger. You want to buy your first house. You want to raise a child or a family or have your spouse with you in a home that you own. It's something that is very unique. And so if we're going back through all of these situations and we're a normal person, okay, we're an average person that's trying to think through this, and I'm thinking through this in 2011, we bought our first house for $147,000. Now, the housing market is not the same as it was, but volume of homes is going up, meaning there's more homes available for sale on the market. Okay. They're also sitting a little bit longer. In some areas, they're selling higher. Some areas, they're selling lower. Some areas, they're selling faster. Some areas, they're selling a lot slower. So if we're paying attention to that, okay, that's going to help us recognize that the prices of homes are going to slowly go down. Okay. And the reason being is that if somebody's trying to sell, that price is dropping. We're seeing that even related to 2022. In 2021, we have way more homes on the market right now than we did in 2021. I want to say it's 200,000 homes more currently on the market at this moment than in 21 and 22. So that bodes well for a buyer. But if I'm thinking about purchasing a house right now, okay, there's a couple big factors. One, did I save $10,000 yet? Well, if I didn't save $10,000, I got to save $10,000, and then I can start to plan and think about it. And once you do that, you start to think through and plan and lay out more goals. Okay, well, I want to get to the point where I have an emergency fund that's 6 months of my expenses. So if I'm making, my spouse and I are bringing home, let's just say $6,700 a month, my expenses for everything should be around maximum $4,000. So if we could save $25,000 to $30,000, that enables us to have that emergency fund. Now, the third goal, we have to have a high yield savings account minimum where we're going to put money in that when we have our side hustles, we're putting extra cash into that so we can save for a down payment that's 20% of a home. So if we're making $80,000 a year, now this is the next point. We shouldn't be looking at homes that are more than $275,000. Just deal with it. That's part of it. That's part of growing and becoming more financially free, is that you sit there and you're on Zillow or whatever platform that you like to look for homes, and you take a step back and you say, if the average home price is $430,000 in the United States, we're just looking at 1 out of every 4 house is what's reasonably affordable for you. $250,000 to $275,000. That way you can put down $70,000. It's going to take you probably a year and a half possibly to save that $70,000. But that's what you do, okay? And you make that decision of, I'm going to save this to get to this house. It's a starter house. We're going to fix it up. We're going to do all these things. We're going to make it our home. And then maybe 7-10 years from now, we move on to the next house. We can keep this house, whatever the dream is. But that's how you have to think through all these things is, yes, Japan has an impact on the mortgage rates, possibly. I don't see in 2025 mortgage rates dropping, okay? I don't see things necessarily getting much better than they are right now. So what that means is we have to be proactive with our plan. We have to move forward. We have to hold ourselves accountable to save the money. You don't want PMI. You do not want PMI. In my opinion, you'd be better off investing some money and saving it and hustling hard and paying for a rent, which is perfectly fine if you're in an affordable renting situation. You should not be paying PMI. And I think that if we can look through that and just recognize you put down 70%, that puts you in the 250 to 275 range. That's the homes that you're looking for. Then when you go and you make an offer, you try and lowball them a little bit. You owe these people nothing. Try to say, hey, 245, 240. That's going to save you some cash. You have that side hustle. Now, once you get into the home, you have a side hustle. And then on top of that, you and your spouse say, okay, now we can have our family. We got to get that emergency fund back up to 6 months of our cost of living. So we rebuild that emergency fund and we focus on the things that you can control. You can control your income. You can control your expenses, okay? And you can control your decision making. You don't need to have a big, crazy car because now you're not going to get that house. Okay, you don't need to have a big crazy house as your first purchase because you can work for it and you can keep building up over long time. So when you're watching these videos and guys are saying, now's the time to buy Bitcoin, it's going to the moon. Maybe it is, and it's fine. That's okay. But why not purchase your house, live in a normal situation, and then in the future, you can get to the point where you can get into Bitcoin. Right now, just get into your first house, but you've got to make those steps. And it goes back to first the 10K, then the emergency fund, then you're saving for the down payment, then you're only buying $250,000 to $275,000 max of a house, and you're looking at only 25% of the homes that are available. And then as soon as that purchase is made, you're starting to grind like crazy to try and save that money back up so that you can make your next purchase, because a home is an asset, okay? A home is an asset just like Bitcoin. You're thinking you need those things, but a home is an asset. Don't forget that. So I hope this helped everybody out there. Peace.